Hey everybody, this is PBOGZ here, and I'm making my very first video for e2sitandgo.com. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I first started playing online poker on a site that went by the name of Bugsy Club. If you have ever played on that site before, it'd be great to reminisce about it once in a while. After that, unfortunately, went under. I decided to go to Bodog and PokerStars. Eventually found a home with Bodog. Played under the name of KenFlow, usually at the $100 turbo and reg speed levels. Once they moved to Bovada, I decided to move on to Juicy Stakes, where I pretty much had to build my bankroll up from scratch again, and so here we are. So let's get this show on the road. Our first game is against a relatively unknown player. I have no history against this guy, no notes at all, so basically playing this one with no reads whatsoever. Usually against, players that I have absolutely no reads against, I like to open up with 3x hands that qualify. You obviously don't want to be betting with any two cards. Get yourself in a lot of trouble that way. Right here, he limps here. It's early, so a hand like Queen 10 suited, definitely want to punish there and see how he reacts. Queen 2 here, suited, definitely going to raise that up. Fortunately, we have such a wet flop there, and he does donk bet into us, so we really have no choice but to let this one go, and just to keep an eye on the fact that he did donk bet, out of position on the flop. 5-9, not a bad hand to just, check down here. Did definitely play this hand a little loose, but just didn't want to be spewing chips, away too early. Definitely going to take a few more stabs next time around, since he seems to be limping a lot and checking down a lot of his hands. So right here with the 8-2, we decided to stab. Fortunately, on the turn, since we didn't, better our hand at all, we're just going to check fold pretty much for the rest of the time there. 10-8, definitely raising. He decides to bet out 20, which to me felt weak at the time, so I decided to re-raise him here. He does call. Unfortunately, the 2 isn't a scare card for him. He's going to call pretty much any other, if I make a raise there, he's going to call with 7x, 6x, 8x, even over cards too. So decided to check down there, and I hit straight on the river. Value bet and get called, and he ended up calling with Jack 9 there. So he called my re-raise with the gut shot, and I'm pretty sure he probably would have called the turn as well, obviously. So right here, obviously, we turn the 8, bet that for value, and check the river, just because there aren't many hands that he's gonna call us for value, and we just have a made hand. There's no point of turning that into a bluff, obviously. Right here we have ace queen. I noticed that it was his first raise, so I decided to play it a little bit safe. I didn't want to get caught up in him, stacking off there, and I'm sitting there with ace queen and not really knowing what to do with it. If he does stack off, I pretty much just fold there, because he's been a pretty, tight passive player so far. Seems to me that he's been donk betting quite a bit, so we're definitely gonna, note that. So ace 4 here, we decide not to punish, but we do hit top pair. We re-raise the flop for value. Definitely gonna bet the turn for value. And the 7 doesn't really scare me that much, and I don't want to lose value value on my top pair, so I decide to bet out. If he does raise, I fold. Pretty easy fold if he raises me there. But a lot of the time, I'm just going to get called with a weaker 9x or 8x. Fortunately, with our hands here, our big hands, we're getting a lot of wet flops, and he is donk betting those wet flops. So it's something we definitely can adjust to. But with him being, so weak out of position, and even in position, that there's no point of getting in big pots with hands that we don't have, since he's just basically calling us down with, whenever we want when we do make our hands. So no point of to gamble with a guy that is basically at this time and point categorized as like a calling station in my book. So right here we have Jack 8 here. Definitely could have bet the 4 there as a bluff, and would have definitely fired away on the river as well with the 8. But just definitely a missed opportunity there. As you see on the bottom, I have certain notes. I have tag, lag, nit, gestation, and the ones that you might find a little confusing is lag that doesn't fold and nit that is lag out of position. So basically, it's just a way for me to let me know that this guy doesn't fold out of position. Now this hand here, he does donk bet into me 30. I decided I had a backdoor flush draw and a backdoor straight draw. Decided to call. On the turn, he bet 30 again. I could have re-raised there and then, fired the river no matter what card pretty much came, as long as it didn't really pair the board. I decided to play it very passively. Unfortunately, he did win the hand with a pair of 5s. But like I said before, didn't want to get too carried away with, hands that, aren't made, because he seems just to be paying us off when we do have our hands. So we don't want to get involved in a big pot with a bluff against an opponent who, is making a lot of loose calls. Right here we have 10-5. We said to check. Try to set up a check raise. We raise it. I do push there. Thinking back to this hand, definitely a mistake on my part. Most times, if I am getting called there, I am getting called by a better hand. I mean, this guy has been calling really wide, so there is a good chance he calls me with King X there, maybe even Queen X as well. But just based on prior hands, I could have just c-betted him for value there on the turn and the river, pending, the river not being a brutal card like a jack. But definitely something that I wouldn't suggest doing if you're ever playing against, a player that is similar to this one. A shove there, wouldn't be too bad if, the pot was around, his stack size, which was about, 7 to 800. But unfortunately it wasn't. So right here we have top pair. We bet the flop, check the turn because the 7 is very much in his range, and decide when he checks back that the turn, we know we're pretty much good with that king. So we decide to bet out for value when he calls down with top pair with the worst kicker. Ace-9 here. He decides to limp. I could shove there, but I feel like the stacks are a little bit too high. I could raise once again, but you don't want to. He's like, he hasn't folded the whole entire game, so he's probably gonna call. Ace-9 doesn't play great post flop, so I'm gonna be stuck in a position where I'm out of position and facing a guy that can basically call with any 2 cards, and there's no need to put myself in such a weird position this late in the game. So I decided just to check it down and just evaluate each turn card. Got 10-5 suited here. I mean, he's been limping pretty much every hand, so we can literally just bet all our hands for value, just based on the fact that he's just playing so weak in position. One adjustment you might have noticed that I did make is instead of raising 3x here, which I would against most opponents, I decided to start min-raising just because he's not folding pre-flop, and he's donk betting a lot as well. So we don't wanna bet out 3x and keep getting donk bet where we have to fold. So there's really no point. We have 10-7 here, but mid pair for value. Return 2 pair. Says donk bet. Obviously, we're re-raising for value. River comes in 8. Not the greatest card in the world, but nothing really in his range that gets there. He shoves and he shows queen 3, which is awesome, and we win. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you all you know, decide to write some feedback as well and let me know how you guys liked it, and I hope to be hearing from you guys very soon. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.